Welcome, dear viewers, to yet another episode of Let's Watch Rich People Light Money on Fire. Today's feature, the tragic yet undeniably entertaining tale of Quibi, the app that thought it could, but oh boy, it couldn't. Imagine, if you will, torching $1.75 billion in just 6 months. That's right, billion with a B, as in, boy, did that crash and burn. Now, $1.75 billion isn't just pocket change. That's the kind of money that could buy you a brand new private island, a fleet of luxury yachts, or perhaps the world's largest collection of solid gold-backed scratchers. But alas, if you were Quibi, you could also use it to produce short videos that nobody asked for and apparently nobody wanted to watch. Let's get this straight. Quibi, a brainchild of Hollywood veteran Jeffrey Katzenberg and tech CEO extraordinaire Meg Whitman, had ambitions as high as a Wall Street executive's coke-fueled dreams. Quick Bites, Big Stories, or Quibi, as they called it, aimed to revolutionize the way we consumed content. Quibi was going to be the Netflix for people with ADD, or rather, the perfect streaming service for everyone with a toilet break under 10 minutes. The company set aside nearly $500 million for marketing. Marketing. The art of convincing people they need something they didn't know existed 5 minutes ago. Quibi's marketing budget was a staggering $470 million, which, if you stacked in $100 bills, would reach the moon, or at least reach the heights of delusion necessary to think people want to watch movies in 10-minute segments. So how did they manage to fail so spectacularly? Let's dive into the bubbling cauldron of chaos. Quibi's launch was heralded by a $63 million Super Bowl ad. $63 million. That's more than the GDP of some small nations. This ad, which, surprise, surprise, involved a bunch of short clips because apparently that was their whole shtick, was supposed to create a buzz so loud it would make bees in a honey factory jealous. Instead, most people were left scratching their heads, wondering if it was just another dream sequence from one of those bank ads they air to remind you of your crippling debt. What Quibi didn't anticipate, aside from the world absolutely not caring, was a little global event known as COVID-19. Yes, in a twist no one saw coming, 2020 had people glued to their screens, but not in the way Quibi had hoped. The pandemic sent traffic soaring for streaming giants like Netflix and YouTube, while Quibi remained the lonely guy at the party trying to get someone to watch his interpretive dance routine. The app's content, a bizarre cocktail of short-form videos, featured everything from intense thriller dramas to celebrity-hosted reality shows. These were all designed to be consumed in quick bites, like an appetizer of sadness before your main course of disappointment. Hollywood heavyweights were roped in with fat paychecks to star in shows that were chopped up into tiny, digestible pieces. Because who doesn't want to watch Liam Hemsworth run for his life from an assassin on a 2.5-inch screen while waiting for a taco? Now, let's talk about the arrogance in thinking that short-form content hadn't already been mastered by, I don't know, YouTube, TikTok, and every social media platform in existence. Quibi seemed to believe that people would love to pay for short content rather than enjoy it for free elsewhere. It's like selling bottled water to a man drowning in a lake. Quibi's founder, Jeffrey Katzenberg, with all the certainty of a guru who'd seen the future, claimed that Quibi's failure was due to the pandemic. Yes, that pesky pandemic. Responsible for everything from disrupting supply chains to destroying the dream of 10-minute TV episodes being the next big thing. But perhaps, just perhaps, it wasn't the pandemic. Maybe it was the fact that Quibi's user interface was about as intuitive as a microwave's instruction manual written in Mandarin. The app didn't allow viewers to take screenshots. Because, as everyone knows, sharing screenshots of the content is the ultimate form of free advertising. But hey, who needs free advertising when you've got $470 million to blow? Also, Quibi's content wasn't designed to be viewed on anything but your phone. No casting to your TV, no watching on your laptop. Because apparently, people were going to exclusively watch videos while ignoring family dinners and zoning out during Zoom calls. Then there was the little issue of pricing. Quibi thought it could charge $4.99 a month with ads or $7.99 without for content that, in the words of one critic, isn't quite a TV show and isn't quite a YouTube video. Alas, charging money for something that's as confusing as a tax form written in Klingon wasn't a winning strategy. As we wrap up this first segment of Quibi's odyssey into oblivion, let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer audacity of attempting to reinvent the wheel when everyone else is busy perfecting self-driving cars. Stay tuned, as next time we'll dive deeper into the creative decisions, or lack thereof, that helped Quibi achieve the impressive feat of making $1 billion disappear faster than a kid's allowance during a candy store sale. As the sun rose on the day of Quibi's launch, a sense of anticipation buzzed through its immaculate offices. It was to be the dawn of a new era in mobile entertainment. The company, having amassed a staggering $1.75 billion in funding, was confident that the world was ready to embrace a new way to watch content. Quibi was the future, they proclaimed, and the future was now. The executives, who had spent countless hours in boardrooms refining their vision and meticulously planning every detail, awaited the influx of users with bated breath. Early forecasts painted a picture of triumph, a user base skyrocketing to 7 million paid subscribers within the year, generating hundreds of millions in revenue. But as the sun began to set, a different narrative emerged, a narrative of unimaginable collapse. Shortly after the app went live, social media was flooded with feedback, but not the kind Quibi had hoped to see. Within hours, hashtags like QuibiFail and short-lived binge began trending on Twitter, amassing over 500,000 negative tweets by midnight. The platform's sleek, quick-bite content, designed for the on-the-go viewer, was met with a torrent of criticism, much of it questioning why anyone would want to watch a blockbuster-produced show on a screen barely larger than a credit card. The backlash spread like wildfire. User reviews on app stores were overwhelmingly negative, with comments deriding the app's confusing interface and the baffling absence of a feature to screenshot or share the fleeting content on social media. On YouTube, promotional videos for Quibi found themselves at the mercy of the community's dislike button, with dislike ratios spiraling to upwards of 80%. By the second day, the impact was visible in the financials, a stark contrast to the rosy projections Quibi had so confidently touted. Initial downloads painted a bleak picture, with numbers plummeting by nearly 30% in comparison to earlier expectations. Market share, intended to break through barriers and seize the imagination of content creators and consumers alike, instead faltered immediately. The anticipated 7 million subscribers dwindled to a mere 1.3 million within the opening weeks. The numbers were stark and unforgiving. Venture capitalists, who had once seen the potential for exponential growth, were now left staring at a graph that resembled a cliff dive more than a hockey stick. Expected market growth, forecasted optimistically at 150% by the end of the first quarter, instead revealed a shocking plunge of nearly 90%. The numbers told a story of unmet expectations and a jarring disconnect between Quibi's vision and the reality on the ground. The barrage of bad press continued, unabated. Major publications took delight in analyzing where Quibi had gone wrong, citing everything from the high-profile but inexplicably out-of-touch launch commercials to the misreading of consumer habits in an era dominated by streaming giants like Netflix and YouTube. Critics questioned the decision to roll out the service in the midst of a global pandemic, when audiences were more inclined to watch content on larger screens at home, rather than in snippets between errands or errands that no longer needed running. Quibi's leadership team scrambled to respond, issuing carefully worded statements about listening to user feedback and making adjustments accordingly. Efforts were made to tweak the app, enhancing features that had been glaringly absent and responding to demands for device compatibility that extended beyond smartphones. Yet even as they pivoted, the damage had been done. User engagement, which had been anticipated to soar, languished instead. In meeting rooms and video conferences, analysts debated the concept of quick bites in a world that had grown accustomed to binge watching. Perhaps, they mused, the notion of consuming content in 10-minute segments was inherently flawed, or perhaps it was merely a victim of bad timing and worse execution. The public reaction to Quibi's launch was a case study in how rapidly fortunes can change in the digital age. What began with high hopes ended with lessons learned the hard way. That in the highly competitive world of streaming, even the most innovative ideas require perfect execution and a deep understanding of the market and its whims. As the weeks dragged on, the question of what could have been haunted the corridors of Quibi's offices. The promise of growth and dominance had instead given way to a struggle for survival. And as social media continued to buzz with skepticism, it seemed that Quibi, once hailed as a game changer, had become a cautionary tale. A reminder that in the world of fast-moving tech and content, not every bold vision can withstand the scrutiny of the consuming public. Behind the scenes, efforts to rejuvenate the brand continued. New strategies were brainstormed, new content was developed, and new partnerships explored, each with the hope of turning the tide. Yet as the initial launch disaster became the defining headline, the memory of Quibi's first days lingered as a lesson for the ages. A lesson in how even the most ambitious projects can falter spectacularly on the world stage. In the annals of corporate catastrophe, Quibi's downfall reads like a Shakespearean tragedy that just didn't know when to quit. After launching with the kind of fanfare typically reserved for a new royal baby or the latest iPhone, Quibi managed to crash and burn faster than you could say quick bite. By the end of its brief, sputtering life, the streaming service had managed to wipe out an impressive $9 billion in market cap. That's billion with a B. The kind of money that could buy you several small islands, a fleet of private jets, and still leave enough change to perhaps, I don't know, hire someone who could spot a train wreck in the making. As the investors, many of whom probably thought they were buying a piece of technology's next big thing, surveyed the smoking wreckage, the reckoning came swift and brutal. Sure, Quibi had boasted a star-studded lineup and a novel approach to content consumption. Short-form videos perfect for people with attention spans as fleeting as their TikTok dances. But it turned out that no amount of glitzy marketing could convince viewers to pay for something they could get for free on platforms they already knew and loved. It didn't take long for heads to roll, and at the top of the casualty list was Quibi's CEO. In a final stroke of irony that could stop any sobbing investor dead in their tracks, the CEO walked away with a severance package worth hundreds of millions. It was a golden parachute of such opulent proportions that it seemed less like severance and more like a jackpot lottery win. A fairy tale ending for the head honcho, as the rest of the company and its employees were left holding the proverbial bag, or rather, an empty digital library. While the dust settled, industry watchers and analysts wasted no time dubbing Quibi as the Titanic of streaming, a lesson in hubris and the perils of overconfidence in a crowded marketplace. As for the brand itself, recovering from this debacle was less a matter of time and more akin to a Herculean task. Projections optimistically suggested it would take at least a decade for the Quibi name to be anything more than a punchline in business school lectures or a cautionary tale shared over cocktails at industry mixers. Meanwhile, future entrepreneurs swore they'd learned from Quibi's expensive failure. The adage, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it," became a mantra, albeit one likely to be forgotten the moment another shiny new tech venture came along, promising the moon and stars. And so, in boardrooms far and wide, the ghost of Quibi lingered, a spectral warning that even the most well-funded ideas could, and often do, implode spectacularly. In the end, Quibi's story became an all-too-expensive lesson in what happens when ambition overshadows reality, when innovation for the sake of innovation ignores the fundamentals, and most importantly, when you assume there's a market demand that never actually existed. The market moved on, of course, as it always does. But for those involved, the lingering sting of this particular failure was as sharp as ever. So as the corporate world continues its relentless march forward, may the memory of Quibi serve as a cautionary tale to all those who dare to dream too big and too fast. Because sometimes, the most expensive lesson of all is simply learning when to hit pause before the credits roll.